On Friday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele Roden and Big Flip Livingstone, we are taking a look at Game 1, some of the angles that need to improve for both the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche, while also teeing up Game 2, baby. This series has all the makings of a classic, and Steele and I are here to break it all down for you, including Game 2, big-time bets. Time to stack some more Stanley Cup paper. And you know, Steele and I got you, baby, so let's get it.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Degenerate gamblers, hockey heads, and people in the place to be, a.k.a. the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. People, much love for tuning in and tapping in to Steele and I Monday to Friday and filling in on the solo shows. That is much appreciated. And thank you to everyone out there for making us your first listen every single day. This is an exciting time of the hockey season. We are full swing into the Stanley Cup Final. And after what I saw in Game 1, Steele, there is a lot of ways we could take today's conversation. But the first one that I want to take it to, before we get to big-time bets, before we get to improvements for Game 2, before we get to all the real exciting stuff, I think it can start with the most exciting note is these two teams are two beauties, Steele, and they are going toe-to-toe like we expected. Game 1 had all the makings of a classic, making it real exciting for, I think, everyone out there. What is in store? And I know you want to hear what I have to say about it after you broke it all down for everyone yesterday, but I think we can both agree on right off the jump is we're in for a real treat of a finale.
Look, this is exactly how we wanted the Stanley Cup Finals to start, and that's exactly what we got out of these two teams. You and I, and a lot of people out there, this is probably the most anticipated we've been for a Stanley Cup Finals that I said in the last 5 or 6 years. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning, the back-to-back champs, looking to be a dynasty, and it's the Colorado Avalanche looking to win their first Stanley Cup in 20 years and start a legacy for themselves. So we're all in for a treat right now. And what an absolute beauty of a Game 1 for the Stanley Cup Finals.
Most definitely. And look, I really appreciate you taking hold yesterday and breaking it all down. Solid episode. If you missed it, please check out yesterday's episode. And don't slip. Hit that subscribe button. Steele and I are out here grinding, baby, with the top quality content. So make sure you don't miss a beat. But yes, Steele, one of the couple of things, aside from this is going to be a treat. Let's put that on the shelf because that's a confirmed. You mentioned Andrei Vasilevskiy looking a little bit human-like there in a couple of moments in the previous series against the New York Rangers, and I didn't expect to see it so early and so often in this series because all of a sudden, you know, a couple of squeakers, a couple of softies maybe, a couple of muffins that you like to say, and I know this is the Stanley Cup Final, so expectations are ratcheted up, and there is no room for error, but number one of my takeaways was Vasilevskiy early did not look great. You know, the Tampa Bay Lightning, both teams look beatable. That's another takeaway, but a sidebar. First would be Andrei Vasilevskiy. Couple of muffins there. Didn't expect that. And number two, Steele, what I really did like to see is once again, the big guns for the Colorado Avalanche stepping up early. Gabriel Landeskog, what did we talk about for the odds for the Conn Smythe? If this guy can continue to go, take a look at his numbers this whole postseason run because he's been impressive. So those would be my first two takeaways, most definitely. Vasilevskiy looking human-like, and the big guns once again answering the bell for the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, he did look human-like in the first period. A little bit shaky, in my opinion. I think he definitely would have liked that Nichushkin goal back because McKinnon, you know, the puck came up the boards on the blue line. What a great play by Nathan McKinnon as well to keep that puck in the offensive zone. And he finds Nichushkin in the slot. And that's where I think that Vasilevskiy really wants this goal back because there was no one in front of him. And that was a fluttery shot too. It took a couple of hops. It was fluttering through the air. And I don't know if it went through his 5-hole or snuck under his glove, but definitely one Vasilevskiy wanted back. But after the third goal from Arturi Lehkonen, he stood on his head from the start of the second period to the end of the third. And, you know, an unfortunate goal allowed in the first, just over a minute into overtime. So he did stand on his head after he let in 3 goals in the first period. But Yeah, he is human. He has been human, like we've seen this in the postseason, but we also know what he does after a loss in the playoffs as well. So I would
This is
expect
true.
him to come back better than ever in game 2, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. And exactly with Gabriel Landeskog, I was talking about first goal scorers for Nathan MacKinnon. He was the first goal scorer. I believe his odds were like plus 900 that day.
Juicy.
So juicy odds as well. So keep looking at the first goal scorers. I know it's a very a hot
Love it.
take to pick. It's very hard to actually.
I love it, Steele. I absolutely
I
love betting on the first goal. There's something about it. Maybe it's because I like to fall asleep early sometimes, but I absolutely love your takes these days on that first goal scored. But yeah, please continue what you were going to say, my friend.
But this is exactly what a captain needs to do. He needs to get his team going especially in the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals. And what a huge goal
Definitely.
For the Colorado Avalanche to get their captain on the board as well.
I just, we're not going to, this isn't the Gabriel Landeskog show, but very quickly, he has been sensational at both ends of the ice. Face-offs, eating more minutes, clutch goals, big-time assists. He is great. He plays a little bit of everything. So, Gabriel Landeskog, in my opinion, is one of those fantasy guys, Steele, that as we continue to push through to the summer, to our content, to tee up all of the fantasy drafts, some of these guys who have hot playoff seasons are obviously going to be hot commodities for drafts, but that's not what today is about. We're talking about game 1, teeing up game 2. Stay tuned for big time bets. Stay tuned for game 2 keys to success. And Steele, just to kind of put a little bit of a bow on this first segment in terms of takeaways from game 1. The Tampa Bay Lightning were shut out on the power play. 3 chances, nothing to show for it. I thought the Colorado Avalanche's power play was going to be key. But if the Tampa Bay Lightning cannot get it done on the power play, case in point, look at last night. Maybe if they're able to capitalize on one of those chances, and I know Colorado was only 1 for 3, but hold the phone. If they're able to capitalize on a chance there, that tips the scales in that game 1, and it could even have easily gone Tampa Bay's way. But that's just one of those things that we talked about in the previous episode, and I wanted to bring up again, that Tampa Bay is going to need to capitalize on some of these chances, and we called on the bottom 6, the bottom 9 even, and I wanted to get your take on this before we wrap this segment. Anthony Cirelli looking a lot better in game 1, no?
Yeah, he looked actually really great. And I think that's one of the points we should highlight as well is that the line matchups that John Cooper are looking for when, the top line's on the ice. He wants Anthony Cirelli every single time on the ice whenever Nathan MacKinnon steps on there as well. So I thought Cirelli did an absolutely fantastic job the entire game, except for one instance where he lost him, and that's where Nichushkin scored. Besides that one time, Anthony Cirelli was aware. He was looking around. Where's MacKinnon? Where's MacKinnon? And he would not give him the time and space to get free and get an opportunity in a high scoring chance area. So I thought he was a lot better. Obviously, not still not on the score sheet, but he was a lot better everywhere on the ice.
Tampa Bay 60% in the faceoff draw versus the Avalanche to the 40%. Some of these numbers, Steele, power play percentage, faceoff percentage, are going to be major difference makers here in the last few games of this season. What a beauty season it has been. We'll talk about a whole bunch more around the break. We're making bets. We're making predictions. We're talking about game 2. This is the Stanley Cup Final. This is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. But first, guys, BetOnline is what you need to know about. It is your number one source for all your betting and sports info needs. Find all the latest sports developments, news, odds, including this year's basketball final. Let's go Warriors. Need that paper, baby. The NHL Stanley Cup, Major League Baseball, and of course, all your combat sports, MMA, UFC, and boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your wagering info, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Real quick, we have an important favor to ask you all out there. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners like you to make sure that we make the Locked On Podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't on podcasts. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It doesn't take very long. And once you complete a survey, you can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take our audience survey again, Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. And thank you so much for all your help. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. And real quick, before we dive in to game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, we might need to make a little side bet here. I might have to go grab my Boston Celtics jersey because it's Celtics in 7, baby. It's Celtics in 7.
Okay, Steele, you're getting me all kinds of fired up here. This is a separate show. You know I love me some side bets, but let's talk after the show because tonight's about to get serious. That's okay. Also, can we talk about complete sidebar for 1 minute? What a weekend in sports if you're a sports betting degenerate. US Open, beauty. NBA Finals, beauty. NHL Cup Final, beauty. Steele, sign me up. I hope my fiance is not listening because I'll be sleeping on the couch for a few days if some of these bets don't hit. AKA Max Homa, let's go, baby. Anyway, Steele, take us back on the rails here. You like that pick, do you? You like the Max Homa for the juice?
Yeah, it's a pretty good juicy pick. It's a juicy pick.
Hey, this isn't the betting show. It's the hockey betting show. Steele, bring us back to what are we talking about here? Game 2, baby. Game
let's
2.
talk about some of the good things and the bad things we saw from game 1 real quickly. One of the good things we saw, we were just talking about Anthony Cirelli, a real step up in his game. Again, not on the score sheet, but just productive all around the ice, being aware of who's on the ice with him and shutting down any opportunities they were able to get. But for me, the biggest highlight I really got out of game 1 was the block shots. I think getting in the lane, putting your body on the line was absolutely necessary for the Colorado Avalanche to win the game because I was taking notes halfway through the game, and the block shots for the Colorado Avalanche were 17, and the block shots for Tampa Bay were 5. And at that point, they were down 3-1 in the game. And then you saw it swing in the second half, especially after those 2 quick goals from the Tampa Bay Lightning. They started to get into the game. They started to play more physical, put their body on the line, get in the way of the shots from the point. And that's exactly what they did with Cale Makar. They gave him no time and space to move around laterally on the blue line, and he couldn't get the shots through as well. So they switched up their mindset. I don't know if something was said after the second intermission, but something changed drastically, and that's what helped them kind of move forward in the second half of the game.
I really appreciate that you're bringing this up, Steele, because one of the things that I noticed immediately watching the Tampa Bay Lightning over the first 3 rounds of this playoff push is their ability to adapt. And this all, for me, stems from John Cooper. And I know that the 2 rings are on the finger because of the ability of the players on the ice to get it done. Let's not get it twisted. But this ability for this team to adapt and absorb, like I'm getting a little freaky with the adjectives here, but it's all for real. They identify the issue. They see where they're getting beat. They see where they're being weak, and they change to make sure that those aren't a weakness anymore. It happens against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It happened very quickly against the Florida Panthers. And then we saw a reverse sweep from the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Rangers because they did the exact same thing. So if the Colorado Avalanche think game 1 rattles the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I was going to save this take for big time bets, but you can tell I'm fired up about it because realistically, I thought game 1 was way more pivotal in terms of who won for Tampa Bay because we said it. The longer that this series goes, advantage Colorado. Yeah. So everything that I saw from what you just said in terms of them making those changes, those differences in the latter half of the game makes me say this series is far from over. And I'm all kinds of fired up still.
Look, their mentality every single game, every single series is fight until we die. They're going to put up a fight no matter what. They could be losing the series. They could be losing the game. It doesn't matter. They are going to fight until the very bitter end of the game or the series. And that's what we saw in the first 3 rounds, especially in the first and third round against the Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers. But look, you said it. This is far from over. It was only game 1. A lot of hockey left. And that's just the attitude and the mentality they have. And they've had this attitude since that sweep to the Columbus Blue Jackets, 4 years ago.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of very intriguing storylines, and there's also a couple of fun ones. And we talk a lot about serious stuff on this show, even though we're obviously lighthearted dudes. But I wanted to hear your position on a couple of the more kind of weird takes that I've heard. Not even takes, just facts. This is the first time in Stanley Cup history, Steele, and I'm just remembering this now, that a team that doesn't end with the letter S Two of them are in the Stanley Cup final. We have the Avalanche versus the Lightning. That is the first time that's ever happened in the history of the Stanley Cup. That's number one. Weirdo fact. You can't bet on it. But number two, how great of a story is it that Mikko Rantanen and Arturi Lehkonen are childhood friends? I just read a story on NHL.com. I did not know that. So this just kind of adds to the layers of how awesome this time of year is for hockey fans. Clearly, I'm drinking the Stanley Cup Kool-Aid. Steel and I's picks are hitting. Make sure you stay tuned around the break for big time bets because we got to pay these bills, baby. But everything you said, Steel, about game two and coming up and what we saw in game one, I think is spot on. And one of the things, though, that I wanted to mention quickly before we go to break is what we talked about a couple of days ago. Nazem Kadri's return. It didn't happen. And Andrew Cogliano's return. It didn't happen. And Colorado was still was able to withstand that push. I'm very interested to see what game two holds. I'm interested to hear your picks, but we now know I think Tampa Bay cannot head home down 2-0. We know they've bounced back from 1-game deficits. We know they've bounced back from 2-game deficits, but Colorado showed up. And the last take I would say is Darcy Kuemper looked a little shaky at times. So like you said yesterday, this goaltending situation might be an issue for Colorado.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue for Darcy Kuemper was the rebound control. I saw the puck jumping off his chest and his glove a lot of times in game one. And, back to where I was talking about the block shots, they did a great job of getting in those lanes and, putting their body on the line. And if they couldn't get in the lane, they gave him the lane to have, to see the puck all the way through. And then he would try to make the save. And that's where I saw him kind of bobbling the puck a little bit. So I think the rebound control for Darcy Kuemper needs to be a lot better heading into game two. For the most part, besides those two quick goals, I thought he was pretty steady though.
He was, I'm critical of Darcy Kuemper. 20 even strength shots, 3 goals on 20 shots for me is, just on the surface level, not good enough, but you're right. He was steady when called upon, and I just thought it was a pretty bold move to put Kuemper in there, and I understand he was so good down the stretch, but if I'm the coach, and there's obvious good reasons why I'm not, and I don't know what you think about that, maybe we can end this segment with that take. I would have gone with Pavel Francouz, and I know, hindsight's 20/20, and it can go either way for the argument for Kuemper being in there, but I thought that was a bold move by Bednar, in my opinion.
Look, they said that he was 100% ready to go. So I believe what they had to say. If he's 100%, put him in the cage. He was your starting goalie the entire season, pretty much. If he says he's 100%, then he's 100% and he's ready for the Stanley Cup Finals.
I guess so. Then why was he on the bench backing him up in game 4? It begs that question, right? If that's the case then, but you didn't have the confidence then in a game 4 clincher, there's some interesting things there. And if you're Colorado at moments last night, you look beatable for sure. That's just all leads into the point steal that this series is far from over.
I think at the time, because Pavel Francouz was playing so great, there was no reason for Darcy Kuemper to come in at that time if he's red hot against the Edmonton Oilers. And then they had the rest. They had, they had the 4 to 5 days of rest where they're still waiting to see who they're going to be playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, either the New York Rangers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that helps him in this situation.
Listen, pal, if Max Homa wins it this weekend or the Warriors bang out, you can just talk it all day. But listen, at the end of it all, game 2, huge, excited, Saturday night, going to be a slobber knocker. I expect another high-scoring game. I had the over last night. That banged out nicely. I'm hoping for another bang out with the big time bet steal. Tee us up, baby.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, which also includes YouTube. So again, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Big time bets. Flip and I, we both went 1 for 3 in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So not our best work, but still at least we got 1 on the night. And I'm trying to bounce back in a big way, and I have some bold takes as well, Flip. So would you like me to start this off, or would you like
I would, because I actually appreciate that you're towing these lines of taking some more interesting prop bets, because I bet on a lot of them. And maybe some of those are wobbly pop infused, or, you're right before the game and you just want to get a little degenerate, but that's just me. But there are some actual value there in real talk about betting. So I appreciate that you're bringing up these angles, because also at this time of year, every single minute of action is already exciting. So ratchet that up a notch with a first goal bet. Let's hear it, pal, because I'm just excited to hear what you have to say.
All right. Well, my first one is just a repeat from game one. And I'm going back to Cale Makar anytime assist, because we have not seen this guy go back-to-back games without scoring a goal or getting an assist in a game. So the fact that he wasn't on the score sheet from game one was a little surprising for me. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. He needs to find some other way to get around his guys that are defending him, because the Tampa Bay Lightning did a fantastic job at keeping him on the blue line, not letting him come down the boards or have enough space to move laterally, which we've seen him do so many times. He needs to figure out another way to get by his defenders and get pucks on net. So I'm taking the Cale Makar anytime assist. And I'll actually just roll it. I'll roll into my second pick as well. I am taking the Colorado Avalanche on the puck line. And I don't know if this is going to be a high scoring game or a low scoring game. So I'm staying away from the over under. Very nervous about the over under, but I like the Avalanche on the puck line. I think they continue to roll. Again, those two quick ones from the Tampa Bay Lightning just happened so fast. The first one, an absolute brilliant move from Nikita Kucherov to find Andre Palat at the back door. And then Mikhail Sergachev, another icing shot that Darcy Kemper really couldn't get a good look at. Two quick ones for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I really do believe the Avalanche come out the entire game and keep the relentless pressure from what we saw in the first period of game one. I like the Avalanche on the puck line for game two.
Look, puck line any time of year is bold. Puck line in the Cup final, bold, and I'm loving it, because I don't even have the cojones to lay that down, Steele, and I'm proud of you, pal. I'm proud of you for being able to do this. And, the wild side of me wants to just do it as well. But I'm going to start with this, because I expect another high-scoring game. We know Andrei Vasilevskiy has bounced back. That's his MO. That's what he does after losses. But there's also something to be said about the quality that they're now going up against. If Nazem Kadri is also even a 50-50 chance, we saw the impact Braden Point had on his return. If that can happen for the Colorado Avalanche as well, I would be concerned about my second pick, because you're probably not going to like it. But I'm going to start my first pick with another over, and I have another 3 picks. It's not the triple dip, because I'm going with a couple of different teams here. But I'm going with the over. I think this is going to be a high-scoring series, because this is what Colorado does. And if the Tampa Bay Lightning can't capitalize on those power play chances and the number is still going over, I like that even more, because if Tampa even capitalizes on one more chance, that number is even more crooked, Steele. So let me hit you with my first two. I'll throw it back to you for your lock and then back to me. But over the number 6, I believe it's sitting at right now. That's my first pick. And my second pick, I think you're going to like, because I'm going a little bit all over the map. Arturi Lehkonen has been arguably the best forward for the Colorado Avalanche over the last 4 games. And that is saying something, because Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, and Mr. Nate McKinnon has been all nasty. But take a look at the numbers, Steele. 3 goals for Arturi Lehkonen, including a big game winner. 4 assists. He almost led the team in power play ice time for forwards. 2 or 3 seconds off the pace for McKinnon and Rantanen. This is a player that you want to jump on right now, because Arturi Lehkonen, anytime point for me, is free money right now.
Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. A guy that you and I have been looking at since the Colorado Avalanche acquired him at the trade deadline. So I like that pick a lot. That's also a guy I might sprinkle some money on as well. I like both those picks. Again, I'm afraid of the over, the under in this game. I really don't know whether Vasilevskiy is he going to bounce back as we've seen him do so many times, or is it going to be the high scoring series that you believe it's going to be? I'm afraid of game 2, so I'm staying away from the over under.
I appreciate that.
For my lock of the night, I'm taking Mikko Rantanen anytime goal. And I think he's bound to put one behind Vasilevskiy right now.
Like this.
As of recently, He's been a very good playmaker. He's got 14 assists on the postseason so far, 5 goals on the postseason. I think he's bound for a goal, and honestly, I think it's going to be on the power play.
I love these bold predictions from you, pal. And honestly, that might not jive with my final pick here because I am going with my lock of the night, the Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line. If they hold any shot at wanting to win this series, and I know that's a bold statement saying it's my lock of the night, but I'm going with the team that I predicted from the start of this series, and I have to ride with them in game 2 because if they have any shot of winning this series, and I know they've shown their resiliency, in my opinion, this is their season tonight. This is their season, and tonight, I know we're 1 game ahead. That's how excited I am. Tomorrow night, Saturday, hello, I'm back. You know me with numbers and dates, people. Just hit the subscribe button and thank me later, okay? But you get me, Steele. That's the angle I'm taking here. Because if they go down 2-0, I'm not going to say the series is over, but in my opinion, it's very close to being over because that means Colorado sneaks out even 1 on the road. They ain't losing coming back home, in my opinion. So, Tampa Bay on the money line, my lock to save their season, in my opinion. I know I'm going to catch some heat for this because of their resiliency, but I just think that's a testament to how good the Colorado Avalanche are, Steele.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to throw that love out there because they looked amazing in the first period of game 1. That makes me nervous. The big guns continue to fire on all cylinders for the Colorado Avalanche, but give me the Tampa Bay Lightning for the juice as well, Steele. Plus 135 and rising on the money line.
Hey, with those odds, you can't go wrong with the Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line. I'm not really sure how I feel about your take on, this is a do or die situation because it's just game 2. We've seen them come back so many times so far in this postseason as well. I actually believe the way I think this plays out is the Avalanche go up 2-0 in the series. Tampa Bay actually ties it up 2-2 at home.
Whoa.
And then the Avalanche win game 5 and game 6. That's how I envision the Stanley Cup Finals happening.
These are bold takes abound. Look at us go now. Halfway through the season we start up. We're crushing it now. Show us some love out there, by the way, people. If you're not feeling these takes, by the way, Steele's coming in hot out the kitchen with these fire takes.
I'm feeling myself.
I appreciate it, my guy. Trust me, this is what I'm here for. Let us know, people. Drop the comments, hit us in the DMs, tweet at us. Let us know if you're feeling these takes because trust me when I say both Steele and I are just getting warmed up. Make sure you're tuned in and tapped in because we have got this fire content coming all summer long, baby.
And we're fired up for game 2. And we all know you're fired up out there as well for the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's reiterate it real quick. My lock of the night, the Colorado Avalanche on the puck line for game 2. My lock of the night, Mikko Rantanen, anytime goal. Flip's lock of the night, Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line. Pencil it in, lock it in, stack the paper. This is where the money is made. Big time bets on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. But for your second listen, you really have to check out the Locked On NHL. From the first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast, just like this podcast right here. So I'm going to say it again so it's engraved in your brain. Hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Once you do, you'll get the latest episodes of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available each and every day, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. You don't want to miss out. Stanley Cup Finals, a ton of hockey left. When the season ends, mock drafts, top 5s, positions. Flip and I are going to break down everything for next season's fantasy hockey season. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Peace.